study, it's a few years ago only, and I concluded that the end game of the left is chaos. Remember that? I said it to Candace Owens on her spectacular interview show at Prager. And because she is so deep and bright, she immediately said, that's it. That's it. As soon as you hear it, you understand it. There is no end game. That's why the what do they call it? The uprights, the goalposts are just always moved. The end game is chaos. The board of spirit. Look at the people in CHAZ. The mostly guys. They have nothing going on. I wonder what percentage are married with children. Wouldn't that be an interesting question to find out? How many were gainfully employed? How many live to play video games? This stuff fills them. It's a children's act, CHAZ. The CH stands for children. And they're acting out. It's sort of like it's an animated video game, this CHAZ. Anyway, chaos it is. Atlanta Journal-Constitution. That's correct? I have AJC. I always have their letters. So listen, this is very interesting. Protesters set Wendy's on fire. Now, I thought you get attacked if you call the violent ones protesters. Wasn't the whole left's thing never conflate the violent ones with the protesters? Did you pick up on that? You did. See? You know that part of my challenge every day is to say something that Alan didn't think of. Just want you to know that. It's good to have challenges for yourself. You'll see my column, you'll go nuts. There will be a lot there. You'll go, wow. An Atlanta Wendy's where Rayshard Brooks, 27, was fatally shot by police Friday night was set on fire. By the way, this is another thing to always understand. The passive tense. It was set on fire. Isn't that amazing? The Wendy's just blew up. Must have been some faulty electrical wiring at the Wendy's. Was set on fire. Okay. The restaurant caught fire. That's the next sentence. It caught fire. You get the language? This is all so interesting. After protesters, there we go, protesters broke windows at the restaurant and threw fireworks inside. Why isn't it rioters? If we say protesters busted windows, oh, how dare you? Conflating protesters with the rioters. And here's a good liberal journal, that's redundant, writing exactly that. Protesters blew up the place. So I don't understand. Is that the new form of protest? By the way, what are they protesting against Wendy's? What did Wendy's have to do with it? Brooks had allegedly fallen asleep in his car. By the way, I've always said this, not just about this, the allegedly use. The only time they use allegedly is when it hasn't been proven in court. But they should do it all the time. They don't know for a fact half the time that they're reporting something. He allegedly fell asleep in his car. Was he a half hour in the Wendy's lot? How long was he there? The drive-through. Yeah, not the lot. Yeah. What do you do if you are in the Wendy's drive-through? Car in front of you is not moving. So the guy's asleep, and there are cars behind you. What do? Well, this is an interesting thing. Correct answer. Usually you call the police. But now we're told that for nonviolent things, you call social workers and mental health professionals. What would they do? Would they wake the gentleman up and say, "Sir, I'm sorry, you just have to move your car"? And he goes, "F you." I'm just making this up. I don't know what he said. I mean, the police were unbelievably nice to him for 26 minutes. Did you know that, folks? Didn't seem like racists. Anyway, what will the social worker do? The unarmed social worker. Sir, I want you to know I have a PhD in social interaction. And what is our favorite word about when things intersect? Oh, yes. I have a master's in intersectional psychology, and I minored in gender studies. So I'm not going to even imply your gender. What is your preferred pronoun? Prior to asking you to move, I need to know your preferred pronoun. Meanwhile, the man is drunk. I'm not sure preferred pronoun registers. But anyway, what will they do? Okay. So Brooks had allegedly fallen asleep in his car and blocked the restaurant's drive-thru when Atlanta police were called. Brooks' shooting led to the resignation earlier today of Atlanta Police Chief Erica Shields. Officers confronted Brooks, who authorities had said failed a field sobriety test. A struggle broke out as police officers attempted to arrest Brooks. By the way, just for the record, how many people do drunk drivers kill a year? I don't know the number, but it's a scourge, correct? So, just for the record, the man was a danger to others. Video posted, this is not to say he deserved to die. It is also not to say that these people committed murder. I watched the video. I watched it 3 or 4 times. Which is, I'm only telling you that so you'll know the limitations of what I know and the extent to which I know anything. They had a fight with him. He would not allow them to arrest him. And they had a fight, and they could not subdue him. They tased him. It had no impact. I don't understand why it had no impact. Doesn't that generally suggest drugs as well? I don't know. I don't know why a taser wouldn't have an impact on a human being. It didn't. And in the struggle, he grabbed a taser from one of the policemen, then ran away. They chased him. They did not shoot him immediately. They chased him. Then he turned around to use the taser on them, and the next thing I saw, he was down on the ground. When I read that he was shot in the back, I can only say, I believe the report. I'm only saying that from my vantage point, watching a video, it's not, it wasn't done with television cameras on the spot. I am shocked that he was shot in the back. It looked to me like he turned around to tase the police and got shot, which is true. But apparently, when he failed to tase them or didn't tase them, there's no allegedly. It's funny. They allegedly shot him in the back. So the question, it's a very serious question. What are the police to do? Man is a drunk driver, has fought the police. That's a bad thing, by the way, to fight the police. Just for the record, I know that it is now widespread not to obey police commands, but society works on that. If the police commanded you illegally, you have to make a case for that. We will be back.
We know this is only temporary. We know it can't go on like this forever. We have to keep focusing on the future and get through this thing day by day. But when it ends, the sun will come out. Jobs will start up again. The traffic jam we used to hate will come back. Thank God for cars. So many things we took for granted are going to be so special. We'll get through this because we have each other and we have this radio station. We are the answer. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
How can these people out there in the streets not know, according to the CDC, that police killings of blacks have dramatically declined over the last 45 years by almost 75%? How can you not know that? How can you not know of a peer-reviewed study in a publication put out by the National Association of Sciences in which every single police shooting in the year 2015 was examined, and they could not find any evidence whatsoever of disproportionate deadly force used against blacks? And then, of course, there's a smaller study by the Harvard economist I told you about. Not only did he not find that they used disproportionate deadly force against blacks, but that they were more reluctant to use deadly force against blacks than against whites. More whites are murdered by blacks than blacks are murdered by whites. How can you not know that? Now, again, as I said many times, most murder is same-race murder. But to the extent that there are interracial black-white homicides every year, about 750, how can you not know that blacks kill 500 whites, even though blacks are 13% of the population, and whites kill 250 blacks, even though they're around 61% of the population? How can you not know that? And you're out in the streets making all these assertions. What you're doing is making things worse. You're creating an image of the police department that's going to make people not want to join it, and you're causing the so-called Ferguson effect that Rahm Emanuel talked about, where he said the police in Chicago have rolled themselves up into a fetal position for fear of being accused of being racist. Well done, Black Lives Matter.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
We've been told for at least 6 weeks now that the only way that we can come out of this in any semblance of getting back to normal is this V-shaped recovery. We had this precipitous voluntary drop because we, as you said, we literally shut down the most powerful economy in the world. And as a result, what we need to see is a concordant and analogous, very, very steep recovery. Don't the figures today indicate that V-shaped recovery, you're the expert, Trish, that V-shaped recovery is in fact possible?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the glimmer of hope, right, that we have right now. And let me tell you, if you can pull that off, Seb, you give people that economic security again, and wow, I mean, he will be applauded for that. If you have the economic security and the physical security, because don't forget,
yes,
like this is what we're dealing with right now too. You don't have that physical security. If you can give those two things to people, I mean, I think that really affects the middle of the road voter. They want to feel economically and physically secure. So today was a huge win for the president, but more importantly, this is a huge win for America.
Hello, my friends. Yes, I'm gonna. Good. This is excellent. I have an anonymous policeman calling in. The city listed is Anywhere, USA. He truly, I assume it's a he, truly wants to be anonymous, and that's fine with me. And is on duty. Officer, welcome to the Dennis Prager Show.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to give you a quick, you had mentioned something about the taser. Two things. It's very common for suspects to be shot in the back because of the reaction time of the police officer or any human being with the stimulus, and their reaction time afterward could take a second to up to a second and a half before they engage. That often leads to the round striking the suspect after he has turned back around and in the back. But the officers most likely did not intentionally go to hit him in the back. Once they perceived the threat, they engaged. The reaction time of the human body is a second to a second and a half.
That is exactly what I concluded, because what I saw, he was shot while trying to tase the police. So what you said makes perfect sense to me.
Also, the taser is not foolproof. If the taser probes are close together, let's say within 2 to 3 inches, it'll only stimulate that muscle 2 to 3 inches. If they separate after a distance where they, let's say, hit one in the shoulder and one probe goes into, let's say, the ankle, it will stimulate the muscle group in between there, rendering the suspect hopefully unable to control their movements and freeze for up to 5 seconds. Hopefully. That's if it goes to the clothing. That's if, because it goes about a second or about an inch to an inch and a half deep to go through clothing. If you can get that full, what we call a spread, it should stimulate, but often a probe misses, it's stuck in the clothing, and with one probe, all you'll get is a little vibration, and you will not be under the influence of a taser. However, if the officer was hit with that, it will go through our vests. If we are stimulated with that and we can't control ourselves, we have now brought a gun to the fight, and they can disarm us, and that's also a deadly force scenario.
Very good. This is extremely helpful. How far away does it work?
21 feet.
Oh, well,
Usually
the guy, in the picture, he
depends.
looks like he's 5 feet in front of the officers.
It just depends on where the probes hit, but the length could be 15 to 21 feet. It just depends on the length of the cord.
So what you're telling me is the officers would have had a better chance to successfully tase him had they not been fighting him.
Well, there is a way to do it. You can deploy the taser, let's say, at the lower calf area, and then re-engage the taser where we call a contact drive stun, and that would engage the distance that you would need to stimulate the body. However, we were discussing it this morning. There's other ways to skin a cat. If they had controlled the legs, that would assist. There's several things that we could do to try and prevent this. Obviously, if he complied with the law and complied with the officer's commands, this wouldn't be an issue. But obviously, they're trying to apprehend the suspect, overcome resistance, and effect an arrest.
Now, let me ask you a human question. How do you and your fellow officers react to an immediate charge by a DA of murder?
There's no due process. Absolutely wrong. Everybody gets their day in court, even including police officers, who by the U.S. Supreme Court has said, rapidly evolving, intense, uncertain scenarios, the officers cannot be judged on 20/20 hindsight. We have to look at an officer as another officer's, a reasonable officer standard of training. If another officer with the same training and experience would have come to the same conclusions, that's what the U.S. Supreme Court is going off of. And by doing this, because you can always hindsight it, and that's Graham versus Connors, the law for that purpose, is that you can't hindsight everything. You're going to have to say, what did the officer know at the time he was trying to effect this arrest?
I don't know where you are because you didn't want to tell me what city, and I respect that. Do you feel respected in your community, or do you feel isolated?
In my particular community, we're in the greater Los Angeles area. In my particular community, we get hugs, waves. Our citizens have been extremely pleasant with us. And it's a racial divided community, divided meaning multiple races in it. And everybody has been very, very respectful. We had a lady come over when we were trying to protect a Costco, and she got out of the car in tears, crying and hugging us, saying, we all need you, we love you. And we feel the same way with our citizens.
You hugged during COVID?
Well,
I hug too. I'm totally being absurd because we're living in an absurd time. I'm very happy to hear that. You see, I thought I would hear, oh, you're calling from Jackson, Mississippi. But if you're calling from L.A., so that you've identified, I'm very happy to hear.
Greater Los Angeles area, yes, sir.
Yes, all right, fine. Greater Los Angeles area. I'm very happy to hear that you feel that from the citizens. This is very important to me. Again, I'm not a statistical analysis of everything that's going on to give a concrete, but from what I feel on duty and from what we feel in the area, outside of people come in there to create problems, but the citizens who live in the area, they need us, they love us, and we need them. And we find a very, very good rapport with our citizens. And it's unfortunate to see these political people that have no stake in the game, have never worked in a black and white, and they say, well, this is a murder. Or, well, I don't know how you get a premeditated it's absurd.
Murder charge.
No, it's absurd. They overcharge, then they're not convicted, and then we get more riots.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
The way it works,
and,
yes.
And if you put multiple people in our scenario where you talk about reaction times, and if you point a fake pistol at somebody, the officer's going to have to react based on their training experience if they're in fear for their safety. And if you point a weapon that
No,
can
you made a
actually
very
do damage,
important point. If he successfully tased the officers, he can get their gun.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The citizen has no right to refuse a lawful.
That's right. Exactly.
Command from
Yes. They spoke to him for 26 minutes. They were like his therapists.
Right.
All right, my friend.
And we do the best we can.
You certainly do. Thank you so much for calling. Boy, I was pleasantly surprised to hear Greater Los Angeles area. It'd be interesting to see the election. Tell you this: if a vote for the Democrats is a vote for chaos, and I have even less respect for the notion, I can't vote for Trump. Of course, I'm opposed to all of this. Can't vote for Trump. Trump is not the issue. America's the issue. Grow up. You don't like Trump? Fine. Get a Trump doll and punch it every day. And then vote accordingly in the sense of according to what is better for America, not what makes you feel wonderful and moral.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio.
This is Albert Mohler for townhall.com. A chilling headline ran over Easter weekend from CNN. Louisville police officers to record license plate numbers of Easter weekend churchgoers. Over the course of this pandemic, I've argued that churches should follow generally applicable shelter-in-place orders, that these orders and guidelines do not violate religious liberty. Indeed, we ought to comply with them out of love of neighbor. But if policies single out churches and religious groups, it becomes an entirely different issue, an unconstitutional violation of religious liberty. Over the course of the last several weeks, some government officials have crossed the line. In the case of Louisville, it took a restraining order from United States District Court Judge Justin Walker to curtail Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher's attempt to prevent even drive-in church gatherings. The judge said, quote, "The mayor's decision is stunning, and it is beyond all reason unconstitutional. Consider this. In America, in 2020, comes the threat that they're taking names and they're taking numbers. It's extremely important that all American Christians take note, and in a hurry." I'm Albert Mohler.
ADF, fighting for those whose religious freedom is being violated.
Attention business owners. As America gets back to work, will customers know you're there? With little warning, the coronavirus attacked our nation and our well-being in ways we never anticipated. The tragic loss of life, unprecedented economic upheaval, and a shattered sense of security has left many individuals and businesses in shambles. While the aftershocks could be felt for months to come, they may not have to. There is hope for an extraordinary turnaround of your bottom line. But will you be prepared for America's grand reopening? All signs point to the biggest business opportunity of our lifetime, coming as early as this summer. A recent survey of local advertisers shows a 10-point jump in the number of local advertisers who plan to maintain or increase their spending. 1 in 4 businesses expect to spend more in advertising by the end of June, and more than half expect to restart or surge their spending by this summer. As the numbers forecast increased spending from advertisers across the country, will your message be seen and heard? Will your business benefit from the pent-up consumer demand? Salem Surround is prepared to help you deliver the right advertising message to reach all potential customers wherever they are. Your business can be ready for a post-COVID-19 economy, but the time to act is now. Be at the front of the line as our economy begins to fire on all cylinders once again. For a free assessment of your marketing message and strategy, visit salemsurround.com or contact your local media strategist today.
This is Owen Strand for townhall.com. A call is going out now for the dismantling of the Minneapolis Police Department. The president of the city council said this when asked about what to do in the case of a break-in.
Yes, I mean, I hear that loud and clear from a lot of my neighbors. And I know, and myself too, and I know that that comes from a place of privilege, because for those of us for whom the system is working, I think we need to step back and imagine what it would feel like to already live in that reality, where calling the police may mean more harm is done.
There's no doubt that our cities and communities need restoration, including greater peaceful engagement between police and citizens. Yet the idea that wanting protection is privilege is not sound. In fact, it's absurd and won't restore anything. Police who act unjustly are accountable to the rule of law and must be. But there is no need to qualify what a society without police will look like. More harm will surely be done. May coming days bring greater safety and meaningful restoration. I'm Owen Strand.
ADF, fighting for those whose religion.
Hi, everybody. I'm talking about the Atlanta issue. I don't think it's worthy of riots. I don't believe that the man was shot because he was black. They spent 26 minutes talking kindly to the man. You can see it on video. He was drunk. His car, the police were called because his car, he fell asleep in the drive-through lane at a Wendy's. I mean, I know it's obviously insignificant compared to a death, but I still, I'm just curious, what did the people do? Oh, I guess somebody must have told the last person back out. I guess that's the way to do it. They all had to back out of the drive-through. When I mentioned Wendy's was burned down, by the way, they seem to have a suspect. They don't have her. She's highly masked. Did you see that? Did you read that? Yeah, I read that. I even saw a picture, but there's just a slight bit of skin that you can see of the face. I don't know how they put up a reward for her. Females have been a very high percentage of the protesters. I'd love to know what percentage they are. I identify the violence with the males and the protests with the females. Could be truly wrong. Video posted on social media showed Brooks on the ground wrestling with 2 white Atlanta police officers in the parking lot. Officers attempted to use a taser on Brooks, as you just heard in my discussion with the officer who called in, who was able to wrestle a stun gun away and flee as officers gave chase. Now, this is odd. Okay, fine. Shots are heard but not seen in the video. Restaurant surveillance video released late Saturday by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation shows Brooks running away. He then turns and appears to fire the taser at the pursuing officers before shots are heard. That's the issue. They didn't shoot him running away. They shot him because he turned around to tase them. In addition to the Wendy's fire, protesters, notice that? It's now protesters. And this whole time, the left was blaming non-leftists for saying that protesters destroyed all of these businesses. No, don't call them protesters. They're rioters. But this is the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. In addition to the Wendy's fire, protesters walked onto the highway earlier in the evening, stopping traffic. I'm just curious, do right-wingers ever stop traffic? Can you remember a time when they did? Does it ever occur to those of you who are open-minded and not on the right that all these things happen from the left? Because there's an arrogance on the left that a right-winger, in most cases, can't even identify with. We are right, so we can stop you from traveling. Get it? Because we are right. The sanctimoniousness of the left is only exceeded by its mendacity. Troopers warned them that they were violating the law. The demonstrators locked arms. You have 3 minutes to disperse, a trooper said. Organizers encouraged people to leave, but not many did. So what do you do with all these people who lock arms and stop traffic on a highway? I would like to have a demonstration. I would like to stop traffic in LA on the Santa Monica freeway because there's no prayer in school. I feel as strongly about that Supreme Court decision as leftists feel about their causes. I think it was the beginning of the downfall of the descent, let's put it that way. I'm not yet ready to say downfall of the United States. That it's illegal. Ruled the Supreme Court. That's why, believe me, you have to understand, this is not new. That was 1962. The descent of the United States started almost immediately after World War II. I was taught by left-wing teachers. Every one of my teachers was a leftist. A teacher in Jewish day school, in social studies, as it was called then. They called them Lefty Moreaus. Yeah, that was his nickname. That was high school in a Jewish day school. Orthodox Jewish day school. By the way, my column tomorrow is on Jewish and Christian schools. If they get this wrong, you shouldn't send your child, if you're a religious Christian or Jew, to a school that adopts the America stinks and all whites are racist curriculum. If you are in pain, I'm not talking now psychological pain. This relief factor does not relieve anxiety over one's society, but it does relieve pain. Take it every day. Helps you sleep through the night, not because it's a pain, not because it's a sleeping pill, but because it reduces pain. It's sort of a miracle. All I ask is that you give it a try. The 3-week quick start, that's when you'll know. You'll know in 3 weeks if it works. $19.95, 800-500-8384, Relief Factor.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
This is a good country. This is a good and decent land. And I believe that with all of my heart. That doesn't mean we can't do a lot better. But it doesn't mean that a sizable percentage of America is bad. Evidently, former Vice President Joe Biden and the Democrat presidential nominee thinks a pretty sizable portion of America is bad. he had a town hall yesterday, another one of these virtual town halls. It feels like every time Biden goes off script, he gets in trouble. Do you believe that up to 15% of Americans are bad people? Is that your view of the nation? If we're going to start categorizing what percentage is good, what percentage is bad, I don't know. That doesn't seem like a winning campaign strategy to me. Here was Joe Biden yesterday. He was with actor Don Cheadle in a virtual town hall.
Do we really think this is as good as we can be as a nation? I don't think the vast majority of people think that. There are probably anywhere from 10 to 15% of the people out there that are just not very good people. But that's not who we are. The vast majority of the people are decent. We have to appeal to that, and we have to unite people, bring them together.
That's a heck of a way to unite, Mr. Biden, that up to 15% of Americans are not very good people. What a unifying message. I guess that goes on a campaign slogan. 15% of Americans are bad? Wow.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. If anybody doubted how strong America is, look at all we've been through in the past few months and understand why we're still standing. We're still standing because we believe in the bonds that bring us together. We believe in freedom and liberty. And we believe that after all we've been through, nothing can defeat us. So let's cheer as America gets ready to rebuild and remake our lives bigger, stronger, better than ever before. Keep it here to find out how. We are the answer.
This is Owen Strand for townhall.com. A call is going out now for the dismantling of the Minneapolis Police Department. The president of the city council said this when asked about what to do in the case of a break-in.
Yes, I mean, I hear that loud and clear from a lot of my neighbors. And I know, and myself too, and I know that that comes from a place of privilege, because for those of us for whom the system is working, I think we need to step back and imagine what it would feel like to already live in that reality, where calling the police may mean more harm is done.
There's no doubt that our cities and communities need restoration, including greater peaceful engagement between police and citizens. Yet the idea that wanting protection is privilege is not sound. In fact, it's absurd and won't.
Pragertopia, pragertopia.com. Every show without commercials, pragertopia.com. Then there's Pragertopia Unlimited, past shows for like a decade, and all my lectures, all my courses, all at Pragertopia. And it is a great gift. In fact, I'm thinking about a gift for the living martyr. Let me get you a subscription to Pragertopia. I welcome you all to the program. So I discussed Atlanta, and I will not repeat. Maybe I'll summarize a little later. I will note this, though. This is from Yahoo News. Stacey Abrams on the shooting. There is a legitimacy to this outrage. This is a woman that Joe Biden is thinking of as vice presidential nominee. She's a phony hysteric. That's all she is. Oh, I was cheated of the election. I mean, the woman is a crank. It's frightening to think that this is what the Democrats have come to in thinking about vice presidential material. On the other hand, it's frightening to think about what they're thinking about for presidential material. But there's something even more frightening. It's the party itself. It's no longer liberal. Former Georgia gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams said Sunday that the fatal Atlanta police shooting of Rayshard Brooks showed the, quote, legitimacy, unquote, of the outrage being expressed by widespread protests across the country. What I would say is, this is a quote from her, there is a legitimacy to this anger. There is a legitimacy to this outrage. A man was murdered because he was asleep in a drive-through. Do you understand what a demagogue? She's a liar. The woman's a liar. I very rarely say that about people. You've really got to qualify. She's a liar. She lies all the time. So you say Trump lies all the time. There's no comparison. Trump generally distorts when he lies about trivial matters. He speaks in a give me, let me put it to you this way. Give me a lie of Trump as consequential as this lie. That's the way I would put it. I don't say he never lies. But consequences matter. If I exaggerate the number of people at an event that I'm at, is not the same thing as saying to the country, as a black woman who's considered vice presidential material, a man was murdered because he was asleep in a drive-thru. That is a total lie. There's no truth to it. He was murdered because he tried to tase the police after he fought two of them, because he wouldn't allow himself to be handcuffed. That's why. So I have a question. When a person like Stacey Abrams makes a comment like that, does she know she's lying? And I believe she does. Sometimes I think the left believes their lies. Sometimes I think they don't. I think she knows she's lying. What she says is, to her mind, it doesn't matter. What matters is I need to make the charge as effective as possible. Right? If she said the truth, he was murdered while trying to tase police. Well, that doesn't sound quite as awful, does it? As he was murdered because he was asleep in a drive-thru. I don't know if it's laziness on my part, because I'm very self-critical, and I always feel that I have a lazy streak. Why I do so much. But if I were less, I don't know if I were less lazy, or I'm not sure it would be possible. I would like to tweet out every left-wing lie that I come across. But anyway, I don't. But this would be example A. I just needed you to know that. And then this, from Yahoo News, the same as the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Protesters gathered at the Wendy's on Saturday night, and the fast food restaurant was set on fire. Isn't that something? It is truly, it's all the passive tense. I thought they set it on fire. What do you mean, was set on fire? That is like saying John Wilkes Booth showed up at the theater and the president got shot. Most people would say John Wilkes Booth shot the president. And notice they use protesters, not rioters. So the left has now invited us to call all the people who smash windows and loot protesters. That's what they're using for the Wendy's fire. Yeah. Oh, Abrams told late night host Stephen Colbert last week. It's so interesting what's happened to late night TV. It's just been ruined. Yeah, enjoy your evening before you go to bed. Listen to Stacey Abrams. Listen to this comment. They're hysterics. There will be no vice president. There will be no president. If our democracy crumbles under the inefficiencies and the inequities that we see happening. What do they mean? What does she mean? Okay. All right, my friends. I want to talk to you about the National Football Leftists, a.k.a. National Football League. I don't know what's going to happen when football starts, but if you venerate America and the flag, and not to mention if you don't believe the lie that America is racist, the greatest lie, as I have said for years in the modern times, there are racists in America, but America is not racist. There are anti-Semites in America. America is not anti-Semitic. Get the difference? I know that this goes over the head of most people on the left who monitor my show, but nevertheless, most of you do follow it. President Trump says he won't watch NFL, U.S. national soccer team, if there's kneeling during anthem. Bravo to the president. USA Today. President Donald Trump took to Twitter on Saturday to once again criticize the idea of kneeling during the national anthem. In a series of tweets and retweets, Trump implied he would not be watching United States national soccer games or NFL games if there's kneeling during the anthem. Quote, tweeting a story reporting Representative Matt Gaetz's thoughts on U.S. soccer's recent repeal of a rule that required national team players to stand for the anthem, Trump wrote, "I won't be watching much anymore." He followed that up with a quote tweet of Representative Jim Jordan on a similar story, adding, "And it looks like the NFL is heading in that direction also, but not with me watching." Now, I would tell you I'm not going to watch, but that doesn't mean anything because I don't watch it anyway, so I admit that. But I certainly wouldn't watch now. Let me make a point clear that I have made in the past. The current jargon, current rhetoric, forget jargon, the current rhetoric is, this is not disrespect to the flag. My silence is a result of an incapacity to find the words because absurdity, logical absurdity, doesn't quite match the comment. Everyone is asked to stand for the national anthem. You kneel, but you're not respecting the national anthem and the flag. How am I supposed to believe such crap? It is so amazing to me, the lies that permeate our society and are taken as truths. The number of football players like Drew Brees who bought this argument. By the way, I feel sorry for Drew Brees. He makes a statement, right? One day, it's just 2 weeks ago. It's disrespectful to the national anthem and the flag. He's bombarded with hatred or anger or sorrow or tears from teammates. The next day changes. He completely changes. His wife changes. They get death threats. I got more on this coming up. Why did you choose the national anthem to kneel if you're not disrespecting it?
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
What happens if there's a criminal out there with a gun and starts shooting people? Who's going to respond if there's no police force?
Look, it is our top priority to keep every single member of our community safe. And if you look back at the last 150 years of our police department, it is becoming increasingly clear that that model of policing isn't working. So we need to invite in our whole community, the 9 members of the city council that came from every corner of our city to stand together to make this commitment. We don't have all the answers. And what we committed to was a community process to help reimagine public safety.
Stop for a second. This is just babble. This is just incoherent babble. I have been to Minnesota and to Minneapolis scores of times. It's just nuts. I don't know how Minneapolis elected a nutty city council that made this nutty person their city council president. But the idea that after 150 years, the Minnesota Police Department has to be defunded, that's nuts. This is the Democratic Party. This is Lisa Bender, Democrat, Minnesota Democrat Farm Labor Party, cut number 18.
Do you understand that the word dismantle or police free also makes some people nervous? For instance, what if in the middle of the night, my home is broken into? Who do I call?
Yes, I mean, I hear that loud and clear from a lot of my neighbors. And I know, and myself too, and I know that that comes from a place of privilege, because for those of us for whom the system is working, I think we need to step back and imagine what it would feel like to already live in that reality, where calling the police may mean...
It's insane. The Democratic Party is insane.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
If you actually care about Black lives, you have an obligation to distance yourself from Black Lives Matter, the organization, the hashtag movement, whatever it is. I want to get that out up front. But Horace, how have you been processing this?
So our group, Project 21, was actually formed in the wake of the Rodney King riots. And several of us, I'm a founding member of the organization, but several of us were watching CNN and hearing this idea that it is the normal and legitimate way that Black Americans express their frustrations with civic life, that they run into the nearest Best Buy and grab as many DVD players as they can. And we knew, I knew this, my associates that I grew up with, and it turns out people from all walks of life knew that this is so far from reality. And we decided to form an organization that would say, we're Black Americans, and we want people to understand that this universal vision or perspective that's being put forward on the mainstream media about who Black Americans are doesn't represent or reflect the reality. And we are going to start having people that will appear on the news, appear in print, appear on the radio waves saying, hey, wait a second. There's a different perspective. When Martin Luther King said that people would be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, we were astonished to hear that what people were saying is okay to say.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
Hi, everybody. Dennis Prager here. USA Today. Browns quarterback Baker Mayfield says he absolutely will kneel during national anthem this year. Cleveland Browns quarterback Baker Mayfield said in an Instagram post Saturday that he will be kneeling during the national anthem this season. Mayfield pledged his support in the push to end police brutality of African Americans. They write it. It's not in quotes or anything. It's a given. Police brutality. They never provide any facts or data, statistics to back up the charge. Is there ever police brutality against Black Americans? Of course there is. Are American police brutal against blacks? No. Are some? Yes. The Atlanta is the Atlanta example, by the way, an example of police brutality. Did you see that they spent 26 minutes talking to the guy? That he resisted arrest and started fighting the police and then tried to tase them? That's police brutality against blacks, I'm sure. That's what Stacey Abrams said. A professional liar, that woman. Mayfield pledged his support. An Instagram user who goes by Ohio G1 posted a message to Mayfield on a video on his page that said, "Please tell Browns fans you're not going to be kneeling this season." Mayfield responded at Ohio G1, "Pull your head out." That's a beautiful way to talk to a fan. The contempt these people have, I guess he's got the contempt virus as well as the anti-racism hysteria. Why would a Cleveland's Brown fan, I mean, it's not like the Browns don't have dedicated fans. There's probably no more, it's not like Chicago Cubs fans. Why would you go to a game or watch a game on TV? I mean, this is a time, you're not asked to storm Normandy Beach. You're asked not to watch an NFL game. Isn't it amazing? There isn't one guy. Maybe it's not possible. Maybe it's not possible for a player to say, I think any instance of police brutality based on racism is evil. I love my fellow players, guys on my team, but I also love the flag. And I am going to stay standing. Can you say that? I guess not. Look, courage, I don't expect courage from football players any more than I expect courage from doctors or any other group. Courage is the rarest of the human traits. But to say this to a fan, pull your head out? Isn't that astonishing? It's a classy guy, this Baker Mayfield. Mayfield posted a follow-up statement on his Instagram story. Everybody so upset about my comment doesn't understand the reason behind kneeling in the first place. We don't? What are we? Everyone who differs with you is a moron? We don't know why you're doing it? Gee, why is he doing it? His chiropractor said don't stand? I have the utmost respect for our military, cops, and people that serve our country. He capitalizes our. It's about equality and everybody being treated the same because we are all human. Okay. It's been ignored for too long, and that is my fault as well for not becoming more educated and staying silent. You're educated on this issue, Mr. Mayfield? You are educated on this issue? How many unarmed blacks were killed last year by police in the United States? How many unarmed whites were? You're educated on, you know nothing about this issue. You bent to the hysteria of our time, to the hate America hysteria, created by the left, not by blacks. Houston Texans defensive end, also from USA Today. Houston Texans defensive end J.J. Watt sent a tweet Saturday that seemingly expressed support for NFL players who take a knee to protest police brutality. After Texans coach Bill O'Brien said Friday that he would take a knee, the coach. That's Houston, right? Well, you guys in Houston, don't watch the games. Let them know. First of all, to begin with, the whole point of sports is to enable everybody to enjoy the game. If it is now a time to not stand for the flag because of your cause, then it's the end of sports as we know it. Anyway, I tell you folks, you got to have a little dignity. Any player on your team, on the Texans or on the Browns or any other team, who thinks all whites are racist, why would you cheer for that person? You think I'm scum? God bless you. I can't wait to cheer for you. Racists are scum. Okay? So what if they just said that? You know what? All whites are scum. Okay? Would you still cheer? Or do you don't think racist is on the level of scum? After Texans coach Bill O'Brien said Friday he would take a knee with players during the national anthem, Watt was mentioned in a tweet from a fan that said, "Pretty sure you won't see J.J. Watt taking a knee." Watt responded with a quote telling the fan not to speak for him and saying, "If you still think it's about disrespecting the flag or our military, you clearly haven't been listening." It's interesting. There's no argument that it's disrespectful to the flag. What if the entire stadium sat? Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for our national anthem. And nobody rose. That's not disrespectful to the national anthem and the flag? This is the lie. See, the left lies, and then this is a case where they believe their lie. Stacey Abrams doesn't believe her lies, but this guy, I do believe he believes his lie. Oh, it has nothing to do with the flag. Then why are you not standing for the flag if it has nothing to do with the flag? I'm supposed to enter Orwell 1984 in doublespeak? The whole thing's about the flag. I know the cause. I understand. but you've chosen not to stand for the flag. Your cause is more important than standing for the flag. So you're disrespecting the flag. I'm allowed to know that. I don't think that. I don't feel that. I don't believe that. I know that. That you deny it to yourself on the Texans or the Browns or the 49ers or the Giants or whatever team is you have decided to drink the Kool-Aid. That's all it means. So you have less respect if you would say, yes, that flag represents racism to me. At least you're honest. Oh, I love the flag. I just won't stand with an entire stadium for it. Oh, but I love the flag. Oh, why would you think otherwise?
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief. America has been doing some soul searching lately. Perhaps you noticed. We're examining what's right with America and what can be made better. No other country does this kind of introspection better than us. Some of what we found we don't like and will change. Every life has the right to be treated with dignity and respect. That includes our law enforcement as well as every skin color. We've been through this before in America, and we always came out stronger. We will this time too. Our hosts will make sure of that. We are the answer. Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
What happens if there's a criminal out there with a gun and starts shooting people? Who's going to respond if there's no police force?
Look, it is our top priority to keep every single member of our community safe. And if you look back at the last 150 years of our police department, it is becoming increasingly clear that that model of policing isn't working. So we need to invite in our whole community, the 9 members of the city council that came from every corner of our city to stand together to make this commitment. We don't have all the answers. And what we committed to was a community process to help reimagine public safety.
Stop for a second. This is just babble. This is just incoherent babble. I have been to Minnesota and to Minneapolis scores of times. It's just nuts. I don't know how Minneapolis elected a nutty city council that made this nutty person their city council president. But the idea that after 150 years, the Minnesota Police Department has to be defunded, that's nuts. This is the Democratic Party. This is Lisa Bender, Democrat, Minnesota Democrat Farm Labor Party, cut number 18.
Do you understand that the word dismantle or police free also makes some people nervous? For instance, what if in the middle of the night, my home is broken into? Who do I call?
Yes, I mean, I hear that loud and clear from a lot of my neighbors. And I know, and myself too, and I know that that comes from a place of privilege, because for those of us for whom the system is working, I think we need to step back and imagine what it would feel like to already live in that reality, where calling the police may mean...
It's insane. The Democratic Party is insane.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
If you actually care about Black lives, you have an obligation to distance yourself from Black Lives Matter, the organization, the hashtag movement, whatever it is. I want to get that out up front. But Horace, how have you been processing this?
So our group, Project 21, was actually formed in the wake of the Rodney King riots. And several of us, I'm a founding member of the organization, but several of us were watching CNN and hearing this idea that it is the normal and legitimate way that Black Americans express their frustrations with civic life, that they run into the nearest Best Buy and grab as many DVD players as they can. And we knew, I knew this, my associates that I grew up with, and it turns out people from all walks of life knew that this is so far from reality. And we decided to form an organization that would say, We're Black Americans, and we want people to understand that this universal vision or perspective that's being put forward on the mainstream media about who Black Americans are doesn't represent or reflect the reality. And we are going to start having people that will appear on the news, appear in print, appear on the radio waves saying, hey, wait a second. There's a different perspective. When Martin Luther King said that people would be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, we were astonished to hear that what people were saying is okay to say.
All right, everybody.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
I'm a man who has traveled the world and one of the only people I know to have gone to this country. If he has, in fact, gone there, that's why I'm having him on. Ami Horowitz, who makes these fantastic videos all over the world. Now, Ami, have you actually entered CHAZ?
I entered, I brought my passport, and went through the border, got into CHAZ, did my thing, took off. So, yes, I entered the Republic of CHAZ, now known as CHOP. Then they realized the name CHAZ was so stupid and sounded like a this is sweet jazz coming at you. And they changed it to CHOP. It sounds rougher and tougher.
CHOP?
Yes.
It's now called CHOP?
CHOP.
Is that the fastest change of a country's name in history?
Yeah, I think it took a long time
for
Rhodesia
to go to
name,
Burma to Myanmar, like it took centuries. This is remarkable. So you went to CHAZ/CHOP. Is it now, in all seriousness, can anybody enter?
Yeah. So anybody can walk in. There's this notion of doing ID checks. That doesn't really exist. Look, the truth is that the veneer of this place, and we'll call it CHAZ, because it's a funnier name, sounds funnier on the radio, but the veneer of this place is, in fact, one of like a carnival party atmosphere, right? There's free food, and there's kids, and there's people walking around and having a good time and blowing bubbles. When you walk in, it does seem like a street fair. To be honest, that is what it looks like. But like anything on the left, if you begin to just scratch the veneer a little bit, the ugliness starts to come out, which is obviously what I do for a living. That's how I make that's how I make my bones. And that's what I did, scratch the veneer. And you then saw the ugliness starting to come out.
Go ahead.
So I'll give you a couple examples. So first of all, just in terms of again, people say that it's a violent place. It really wasn't violent, although obviously a lot of violence had emanated from there from before. But we were there, and within, I would say, about 10 minutes, 2 people came up to me armed with rifles and kind of fully kitted out in military gear, came up to us and said, "Hey, it sounds like you're causing trouble here." And I said, No, we're not causing trouble. We're just asking some basic questions. And I said, "We're not leaving here." They got flustered, thinking that we'd walk away when 2 very armed people came up to us, and they let us continue. So that was our first idea that this was not quite what it seems on the surface. And look, at the end of the day, when you start asking people the right questions, the radicalism of what they stand for begin to come out. And that was very, very clear. And we actually were lucky enough to, because we were harassed by one of the leaders, one of the founders of this new republic, this woman named Jaden. And we ended up talking to her for about 30 minutes. And again, the radicalism of what these guys stand for began to come out. I mean, I don't know if anybody read kind of what they're looking for, but they're talking about, okay, obviously we're talking about the abolition of police. And by the way, it breaks your heart to look at a police station there to protect this neighborhood that is defaced and vandalized. And the police had to leave because the mayor has no backbone. And she forced the police to leave this area, to leave the people who live in this area, who, by the way, are living kind of in fear. If not, at best annoyance, if not fear, because there was a bunch of damage done in this area. And to see this police station just in shambles, it breaks your heart. So obviously they want to abolish the police, not defund, abolish. But she was telling me They want to get rid of the criminal justice system writ large. They want no more courts. I kid you. I mean, it's obviously non-serious, but it's so radical. Yet that the left embraces these people. Mainstream left embraces these people. Get rid of the court system, the judges. They want to release every person of color from jail. This is what they want to do. It's fully unserious. But what's so hard and saddening about this, and so dangerous, is that this is a major Black Lives Matter movement, right? Who's getting a ton of attention. Yet the mainstream media and the Democratic leadership embrace these people. It's bizarre, and it just boggles my mind.
Well, there's an article in the New York Times abolish jails. They didn't say abolish courts, but abolish jails. This is mainstream is exactly right. I'll be back in a moment. The only person I know, I mean, I've been to 130 countries, but I have not been to CHAZ now, a.k.a. CHOP, or CHOP, a.k.a. CHAZ. My friends, I want to remind you about a major sponsor, Riduzone. Riduzone is a doctor-developed product that is an excellent way to curb cravings for foods that derail your diet. Backed by 2 U.S. patents, Riduzone is the only FDA-accepted product that includes OEA, the naturally occurring molecule that helps you feel full faster and burns stored fat. That's powerful stuff, and obviously it's natural. Riduzone makes it easy to resist cravings. Use the promo code Dennis, and you will save up to 65% at Riduzone, RIDUZone.com. Also free shipping. Save up to 65% with the promo code Dennis, Riduzone.com.
This is Owen Strand for townhall.com. A call is going out now for the dismantling of the Minneapolis Police Department. The president of the city council said this when asked about what to do in the case of a break-in.
Yes, I mean, I hear that loud and clear from a lot of my neighbors. And I know, and myself too, and I know that comes from a place of privilege, because for those of us for whom the system is working, I think we need to step back and imagine what it would feel like to already live in that reality, where calling the police may mean more harm is done.
There's no doubt that our cities and communities need restoration, including greater peaceful engagement between police and citizens. Yet the idea that wanting protection is privilege is not sound. In fact, it's absurd and won't restore anything. Police who act unjustly are accountable to the rule of law and must be. But there is no need to qualify what a society without police will look like. More harm will surely be done. May coming days bring greater safety and meaningful restoration. I'm Owen Strand.
ADF, fighting for those whose religious freedom is being violated. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
The 5-minute campaign strategy as of today, would it be spend all your time, resources, energy, and policy on PA and Wisconsin?
Well, it's not going to be that simple, because the Democrats are going to be attempting to go after Arizona. They've signaled that if they win Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Arizona, Biden's president of the United States. They're going to go after Florida because it's perennially close. They're going to have to make a decision about North Carolina. Are they going to go there? They're thinking they want to try and do Georgia, but they may not have the resources. So the problem is you can't just simply say, okay, I'm going to put all my chips on Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, because they're going to have to be playing defense in these other states. Now, the advantage that Trump has is that he's got more resources, and he's got a bigger, better digital infrastructure, which will matter a lot. So, he's going to be able to play in all those states. He can play in the 3 Great Lakes states. He can play in Iowa. He can play in North Carolina. He can play in Florida. He can play in Arizona. But I'm not yet certain that the Biden campaign is going to have the resources to compete in all of those states. I mean, Florida is a $50 to $70 million proposition, and North Carolina is a $35 to $50 million proposition. So those, you start, and we haven't talked about Ohio. Isn't that interesting how little we talk about Ohio this election?
My home state has gained its confidence under Michael DeMine. My home state is solid red. You had to worry about it in your elections, but we've got that locked up now.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today.
Ami Horowitz, who makes these remarkable videos, is in Seattle, and he crossed the border into CHAZ, known now as CHOP. And in Vegas, there's actually betting on what the name will be next week. Yes, I've submitted my recommendations. Did you make a video?
No, we shot it. We haven't edited. We're going to try to turn this video around by the end of the day today.
Okay, good. Let me know, obviously. I want to see it immediately.
But I can't. I'm so excited that I have actually been to a country you haven't been to. I can't believe it. I've been working my whole life toward this moment.
Yes, that's right. And you didn't even have to leave the continental United States to do it. So you cheated. You sort of cheated. I just want to say. I think I would count it as half a country.
I argue that point, but okay. Hey, have you been to Kazakhstan?
No.
I got another one.
You crack me up. When was your last cigar?
3 days ago.
See, that you should be embarrassed.
Well, yeah.
Did you smoke one in CHAZ? Are they smoking cigars in CHAZ?
No. You think you're allowed to smoke a cigar in the country of CHAZ? You got to be kidding me.
Oh, yeah,
I think that's capital. That's capital punishment.
No, you're right. That was stupid. So let me understand something. These are serious questions. What do they do for hygiene?
No, look, these people, they a lot of them filter in and out. So I think a lot of them take. There's always a presence there. So if you go any time at night, there's always somebody there. But my feeling is because it is a porous situation. It's not like you really can't go in and out. So people are filtering in and out.
If it's porous and they depend entirely on things outside of CHAZ, what is their point?
Their point is simple. Their point is there needs to be not a fundamental change in America. They're way beyond fundamental change. They're way beyond reimagining America. In their words, and again, I can't stress this enough, right? I cannot stress enough how much in error people are when they separate the protesters from the rioters. Because
they don't anymore. Actually, as I read to the audience earlier, my listeners, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and Yahoo News said protesters burned down Wendy's in Atlanta. They no longer make a distinction. Go ahead.
Great. Literally almost every person I spoke to defended, and this is in Minneapolis, in New York, and now in Seattle. I spent a lot of time with the protesters in different parts of the country, and almost without exception, they all defend and justify the violence. They are two sides of the same coin. I cannot stress it enough. So what the people in CHAZ want to do is they want to literally burn down America. Jaden, the woman I was talking to, is one of the main organizers of the BLM movement in Seattle and of CHAZ. She was clear as day. She wasn't trying to hide the ball. She was saying the quiet stuff out loud. They want the destruction of America. And then once America is destroyed, then it can be rebuilt in their own leftist and narco-communist vision. And there's been this alliance, again, we've talked about before, how Antifa and BLM have kind of have been working together because they have the same goals. They essentially have the same goals, and they're working together on this. I also want to point out again the anti-Semitism of the BLM movement, the anti-Semitism of the people that I spoke to there, and the anti-Semitism of the movement itself. You know, BLM, now you would think that their sole focus would be on the situation, the brutality that they view that the white people are putting upon the black person. You would think that would be their sole purpose. Yet, in BLM's charter, in one of their main issues they talk about nothing else outside of the black movement in America except for the genocide being committed on the Palestinians by Israel. They decided to take this precious space, their precious focus on the plight of the black person in America, and decided, you know what, we hate Israel and the Jews so much, we're going to take this time and put a highlight on the only Jewish state in the country. And when I pointed that out to people, the protesters, again, New York, Minneapolis, Seattle, you get a consistent message. Yes, Israel is one of the great dangers of the world. The one Jewish state that's trying to defend itself is one of the great dangers of the world. And they were quick to point out, Ben & Jerry's was there, and they're giving out ice cream. Because a lot of people are there giving out free stuff because obviously they don't have a self-supporting economic system yet. And they were quick to point out, we're glad Ben & Jerry's are here, but they're two Jewish guys who support Israel. That's what people told me on camera. So, yeah, there's a real undercurrent of anti-Semitism, and I want to tell our Jewish friends, because there were a lot of Jewish people who were there at this thing, and I want to point out to them, I know where your heart is, and I get where you're coming from, but you have to understand there is a real ugliness in the Black Lives Matter movement that you're going to, at some point, you're going to have to reckon with, because it's there and it's dangerous.
I think it's very important what you're noting. I just in the little time we have left, I want to try to get an idea of who is in CHAZ. So, are they almost all under 40?
No, it's a pretty wide mix of people. I would say it's majority white. I would say it was 75% white. The others were black. And there's actually a very interesting split within the people, within the demographics there. The split is this. You ask white people, hey, how do you like the atmosphere? Oh, we love it. It's great. Our kids are here. We're getting ice cream. It's a carnival-type atmosphere. When you ask a lot of the black people the same question, their answer is very different. They don't like the atmosphere. They don't like the fact it's a carnival atmosphere where people are having fun because they're dealing with very serious issues. And there's a real, they were butting, you can tell there was a tension there between the white leftists who are trying to take this over and try to make it about what they want to make it about.
And what is the ratio male? What's the male-female ratio?
I would say 60-40 male. But not insignificant amount of females.
All right, my friend. Thank you for your report. Ami Horowitz will tell you about the video as soon as it comes out.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Is it of importance to us in interpreting the events of the last 2+ weeks that we are seeing all of this happen predominantly in hardcore Democrat-run cities, Gianna?
You know what's interesting about that is that Democrats won't even take credit for the fact that a lot of their policies have caused this to happen. You think about somebody like Joe Biden who goes into George Floyd funeral with a video message talking about racial reconciliation and healing. Meanwhile, he's a big part of the reason why we have so much division in this country today. You think about the 94 crime bill. If we're going to talk about liberal cities, you can't forget about my hometown of Chicago, where you got a mayor there who provided, or rather asked for, 375 National Guardsmen in the city of Chicago and put them all in the downtown area. Meanwhile, the poor black areas on the south side and west sides are left to fend for themselves. You're talking about minority-owned businesses ruined, which they don't have money to come back. Some of these folks don't even have insurance. And that's across all American spectrums, whether you be white, black, or indifferent. We just lived through COVID. And now you got these liberals whose policies have created a huge mess from a financial tax purpose, a tax basis. And now you're disenfranchising poor people more by way of your policies, even through protests and looting. This is unimaginable. Who would have thought that this is where we would be in 2020? But if anybody is really listening and watching what's going on, this should be the best reason not to vote for liberals in any capacity. That's any office, whether it be president, Senate, House, state Senate, state House, mayor, any office. You shouldn't be voting for Democrats. And that's what I've taken away from this time.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
My guest is Jason Riley. He is the board member of the Wall Street Journal, also senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute. Jason, what do you think are the remaining barriers for people to escape poverty, Black people?
The remaining barriers are largely government-created barriers, denying kids the ability to choose the schools they want to attend, or at least their parents choosing the schools that they want their children to attend. When Black aspiring entrepreneurs want to start a business in a neighborhood, there are plenty of barriers there. So I think they're largely government barriers. I mean, you mentioned the title of one of my books, Please Stop Helping Us. I don't think there's a government solution out there that's going to save Black America. I think it's mostly about Black America or about government getting out of the way, minimum wage laws that price Blacks out of work and so forth. Mm-hmm.
Well, the lifetime of study and observation of life in the world led me to years ago to tell you everything the left touches, it destroys. And I think more and more of you are aware that there was no hyperbole involved at all. All we need to do is awaken liberals to the fact that the left is their enemy, not conservatives. That is the single greatest project we have to engage in. Republicans have to make clear that the Democrats will ruin this country because they have turned left. They are no longer liberal. And, okay, there was a call earlier. I was going to take it. I understand why people don't stay on for whatever reason, but why do I always give the police the benefit of the doubt was what the caller summary said. That I wanted to know on what grounds he had said that. I don't give anyone the benefit of the doubt. I give facts the benefit of the doubt. The fact that I don't get hysterical and believe that there is widespread police racist brutality, it's a gigantic lie based on nothing, based on emotion. And it is statistically minuscule. Every study I have seen, Harvard, University of Maryland, Michigan State, said that to their shock, it turned out that police disproportionately had shot whites to death. Disproportionately. By the way, I'm not the first to point out if killing a lot of certain group makes you anti that group, then the police are clearly man-haters. Is that not correct? Why don't we charge the police with hating men? 50% of those they kill should be male and 50% should be female. Now, why don't you charge them with anti-male hatred? Because you know that the vast majority of the violent criminals that they come in contact with are male. Well, a disproportionate number of those they come into contact with are black. I give truth the benefit of the doubt, not police. Yes, indeed, my friends. Okay. I want to remind you of two great possible gifts for Father's Day: a subscription to this show, commercial-free at Pragertopia, and my books, The Rational Bible.
This is Owen Strand for townhall.com. A call is going out now for the dismantling of the Minneapolis Police Department. The president of the city council said this when asked about what to do in the case of a break-in.
Yes, I mean, I hear that loud and clear from a lot of my neighbors. And I know, and myself too, and I know that that comes from a place of privilege, because for those of us for whom the system is working, I think we need to step back and imagine what it would feel like to already live in that reality, where calling the police may mean more harm is done.
There's no doubt that our cities and communities need restoration, including greater peaceful engagement between police and citizens. Yet the idea that wanting protection is privilege is not sound. In fact, it's absurd and won't restore anything. Police who act unjustly are accountable to the rule of law and must be. But there is no need to qualify what a society without police will look like. More harm will surely be done. May coming days bring greater safety and meaningful restoration. I'm Owen Strand.
ADF, fighting for those whose religious freedom is being violated. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
The 5-minute campaign strategy as of today, would it be spend all your time, resources, energy, and policy on PA and Wisconsin?
Well, it's not going to be that simple, because the Democrats are going to be attempting to, go after Arizona. They've signaled that if they win Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Arizona, Biden's president of the United States. They're going to go after Florida because it's perennially close. They're going to have to make a decision about North Carolina. Are they going to go there? They're thinking they want to try and do Georgia, but they may not have the resources. So the problem is you can't just simply say, okay, I'm going to put all my chips on, Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, because they're going to have to be playing defense in these other states. Now, the advantage that Trump has is that he's got more resources and he's got a bigger, better digital infrastructure, which will matter a lot. So, he's going to be able to play in all those states. He can play in the 3 Great Lakes states. He can play in Iowa. He can play in North Carolina. He can play in Florida. He can play in Arizona. But I'm not yet certain that the Biden campaign is going to have the resources to compete in all of those states. I mean, Florida is a $50 to $70 million proposition, and North Carolina is a $35 to $50 million proposition. So those, and we haven't talked about Ohio. Isn't that interesting how little we talk about Ohio this election?
My home state has gained its confidence under Michael DeMine. My home state is solid red. You had to worry about it in your elections, but we've got that locked up now.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. If anybody doubted how strong America is, look at all we've been through in the past few months and understand why we're still standing. We're still standing because we believe in the bonds that bring us together. We believe in freedom and liberty. And we believe that after all we've been through, nothing can defeat us. So let's cheer as America gets ready to rebuild and remake our lives bigger, stronger, better than ever before. Keep it here to find out how. We are the answer. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
For folks like you and me, this was a moment ago, especially for you. You lived through this. You were an adult. This was your friend. This was a student. And the parallels with what are happening in this country today are so striking. I mean, we could have talked about this book just because it's the 50th anniversary and it's a good book and it's interesting. And, you and I have met. But I mean, the parallels to what is happening right now in this country are just crazy similar. And so I do want to talk about that. Now, look, there's a lot of young people listening to this program who don't have a clue what was going on around that time. So frame it for us. In this novel, Hippies, which is based on real life events, obviously, you just told us 2 of your friends were killed. students were killed. I mean, I still can't get my head around this.
All right. It was good.
No, go ahead. So frame it for people who don't know anything about Kent State or whatever.
Right. Well, back then in 1969, 1970, it was all about the Vietnam War, and the attitude of the country was changing. Like our best baby boomers, when we were going off, we're graduating. Like when I was graduating from high school in '67, you were expected to go to Vietnam and defend the country, like our parents did, the World War II generation, and we were all for it. But then people started realizing this war was not a good war. There was no sense to it. That kids were getting killed at the same rate as World War II, and nothing was happening. I mean, Vietnam was no threat to the United States like the Germans with their A-bombs and their iron. Vietnam didn't even have a Navy or an Air Force or anything, And my friends were coming back. They went to Vietnam, and they came back and telling horror stories. And so the whole mood of the country was changing. So the students started protesting.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
I want to share with you Raynor Jackson's comments because this came from the White House, where the president is sort of in his way on a listening tour. I know that the rap against Donald Trump is that he doesn't listen to anybody. And that, of course, is a lot of hogwash. He does listen. He ultimately makes decisions based on his gut, on his instincts, on what got him to the White House in the first place. But quite frankly, anybody who's been around him recognizes he does spend a lot of time listening to advisors, listening to people who are willing to bend his ear. So here's Raynor Jackson.
Well, what I'd like to say to you, Mr. President, is kind of off the beaten path. I'd like to say to all the media assembled here that I wish they would quit lying about what you've done specifically for the black community. So you got radical liberal journalists like Joy Reid from MSNBC, Don Lemon from CNN, Roland Martin, who are putting more poison into the black community than any drug dealer, who are killing more black folks than any white.
Hello, everybody. Dennis Prager here. We go to Europe for a moment. And my unofficial, he doesn't even know it. He is an unofficial European correspondent of the Dennis Prager Show. Matt Ridley, are you prepared to accept that title?
I'm deeply honored, Dennis. That's extraordinary.
I had no idea what you would say. I could have imagined you saying, let me think about it.
What's the pay?
Well, I thought I used the word honorary.
Okay.
I didn't.
Did.
No,
Fair
no.
enough.
Now that I think of it, I didn't. Yeah, no, that was misleading. The pay is that I will.
I'll send an invoice.
No, here it is. I have the pay. Now that I think of it, because I find that an appropriate question. And the pay is that I will regularly mention your superb book, which is just come
Thank
out.
you.
How Innovation Works, Why It Flourishes in Freedom. Matt Ridley. It is up at DennisPrager.com. He is also a New York Times best-selling author of The Rational Optimist. And freedom is everything. Freedom. I'm talking to you again because I so appreciate your insights. I just want to stress something that I'm sure, well, shouldn't say I'm sure you'll agree with because I don't want to put pressure on you to agree with it. But I have told my listeners for some time now that liberty is a value, not a primary human instinct. The primary human instinct is to be taken care of. Liberty is a value. How do you react to that?
That's really interesting. And I think the way I react to it is by saying, does that help explain why it's surprisingly hard to get people worked up about liberty, certainly these days?
That's right.
people say, well, no, security is more important or something like that. I mean, when you think of the struggles that our ancestors in Western Europe and North America, but also the ancestors of everybody around the world had to gain freedom, to establish the principle that a person should be allowed to do what they want as long as they don't harm other people. And how that was the great rallying cry of the liberal movement throughout the 18th and 19th centuries and so on. I find it amazing that today, when you say, I think freedom's a good idea, some people say, well, you know, can't be too careful. I'm not sure that's a good idea at all. So it doesn't seem to come completely naturally. I mean, people do, you're right, seem to put security first and freedom second, and they have to learn the benefits of freedom, perhaps.
So in light of that, I'm curious, because you had a lockdown or have one in the UK as we do in the US. Do you think that 50 or 75 years ago, with the same virus going around, people would have accepted a complete cessation of labor and of even leaving their house as they have now?
Well, I think 75 years ago, we're talking World War II, and this country, particularly the UK, more than the US, did have most of its freedoms temporarily extinguished. You were told what to do. You were told that you couldn't walk the streets at night. You were told you couldn't use it. You know, there was a man who came around to check whether there was a chink of light available through your windows that might help the bombers. You know, food was rationed, all that kind of thing. So I think actually we've been through spells like this before, and we came out the other side of them, but it took us quite a long time in this country to say, you know what, now that peace has arrived, we don't need all those restrictions. I mean, the UK kept food rationing going for 8 years after the war, and the argument was that food was still scarce and you wanted to make sure everybody had access to it. But the reason food was scarce was because they were rationing it. I mean, you know, it was a circular argument. And the Germans abandoned food rationing something like 5 years earlier than the UK, and it worked beautifully. So we finally got the message, and then we did it. So I you know, the history of liberty in this country is patchy. We every now and then we give up on it, and we have to rediscover its virtues and its benefits. And there was eventually, in the 1950s, a strong movement to say, can we get rid of all these beadles and bossy boots who tell us what we can and can't do? And we did rediscover our instinctive like of freedom. But you're right that, you know, telling people they have to go inside their own home and stay there, I'm not sure people would have put up with that in many eras in the past. I
don't think Americans would have. You know, in 1969, the flu, called the Hong Kong flu then, killed in America 100,000 people, which would be equivalent today to about 160,000 people. Nothing was stopped, and that was exactly the time of Woodstock, where hundreds of thousands of young people had no social distancing. The whole point was not to be distant from the other person. And what, in your opinion, is different? Why this now and not then?
I think people have been so conditioned to pessimistic prognostications, you know, so the possibility that the world is disastrous and disasters are just around the corner, from the climate stuff to pretty well everything else. We're constantly told the world is coming to an end, that people are prepared to buy a scare more than they would in the past. I think it's amplified by the media, for which bad news is the only kind of news that they want to spread. And we've seen in the last few months that it's very easy to scare people. It's not nearly as easy to unscare them. I think you're right that there are people out there who are saying enough is enough, let's get back to normal life. But there aren't as many as I would expect and as I would like to see. back in 1969, you were expected to take some casualties. There were risks in life. People still accepted that.
That's correct.
And I think that's what's really changed, is that people now expect zero risk.
That's it. That's right. The change is what they call a sea change. Is Britain still in lockdown?
Britain is in partial lockdown. Most shops opened today. A lot of schools have started again, but a lot haven't. And the reason they haven't, get this, is because the teaching unions are insisting that they want 100% safety before they're prepared to go back and teach children.
100%.
Even though the risk is... but that's basically what they're arguing.
Right.
It's a monstrous situation.
No, it's not.
Actually.
Then they won't have school for a year. There's no possibility of such a level of safety. It's a virus.
That's right.
Yes. But to the best of my knowledge, we don't. I'm not. I read somewhere we don't even have knowledge of children passing the virus on to adults.
Correct. I believe there's not a single case yet proven of a child giving it to an adult. There probably are some cases.
Right, but it happened in the regular flu, which kills 100,000 people.
Right. And teachers are going to be more at risk in the staff room talking to other teachers than they are in the classroom.
I'm sure they'll talk
kids.
to other teachers with very serious masks on.
Exactly. But, a lot of travel is still interfered with. I was hoping to come to the U.S. in a few weeks' time, but the U.S. won't let me in at present. Travelers from the U.K. and Europe are banned from arriving in the U.S. unless they have American passports or certain kinds of visas, which I don't have.
Well, what about vice versa? Can we go to Britain?
You can, but you would have to isolate for 2 weeks on arrival.
So for all intents and purposes, you can't.
Exactly.
When will that change?
Well, that's only just come in. That's only a week old, that policy. It really is a case of shutting the stable door after the horse has bolted. Now, I'm someone who thought that some of this lockdown was necessary at the start. I was reading the statistics and how rapidly the virus was spreading. We now know that the rate of spread had started to drop before the lockdown started, that the compulsory lockdown added almost nothing. What we needed to do was wash our hands, not shake hands, not go to large gatherings, stay a reasonable distance away from people, and if you felt sick, stay well away from people. That's, voluntary stuff. That's all we needed to do. And that's roughly what Sweden did, and instead of having 90,000 deaths as the model forecast, they've had about 5,000 deaths.
I will be back with Matt Ridley. His book is up at DennisPrager.com, How Innovation Works and Why It Flourishes in Freedom.
This is Owen Strand for townhall.com. A call is going out now for the dismantling of the Minneapolis Police Department. The president of the city council said this when asked about what to do in the case of a break-in.
Yes, I hear that loud and clear from a lot of my neighbors. And I know, and myself too, and I know that comes from a place of privilege, because for those of us for whom the system is working, I think we need to step back and imagine what it would feel like to already live in that reality, where calling the police may mean more harm is done.
There's no doubt that our cities and communities need restoration, including greater peaceful engagement between police and citizens. Yet the idea that wanting protection is privilege is not sound. In fact, it's absurd and won't restore anything. Police who act unjustly are accountable to the rule of law and must be. But there is no need to qualify what a society without police will look like. More harm will surely be done. May coming days bring greater safety and meaningful restoration. I'm Owen Strand.
ADF, fighting for those whose religious freedom is being violated. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
The 5-minute campaign strategy as of today, would it be spend all your time, resources, energy, and policy on PA and Wisconsin?
Well, it's not going to be that simple because the Democrats are going to be attempting to, go after Arizona. They've signaled that if they win Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Arizona, Biden's president of the United States. They're going to go after Florida because it's perennially close. They're going to have to make a decision about North Carolina. Are they going to go there? They're thinking they want to try and do Georgia, but they may not have the resources. So the problem is you can't just simply say, okay, I'm going to put all my chips on, Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, because they're going to have to be playing defense in these other states. Now, the advantage that Trump has is that he's got more resources and he's got a bigger, better digital infrastructure, which will matter a lot. So, he's going to be able to play in all those states. He can play in the 3 Great Lakes states. He can play in Iowa. He can play in North Carolina. He can play in Florida. He can play in Arizona. But I'm not yet certain that the Biden campaign is going to have the resources to compete in all of those states. I mean, Florida is a $50 to $70 million proposition, and North Carolina is a $35 to $50 million proposition. So those, and we haven't talked about Ohio. Isn't that interesting how little we talk about Ohio this election?
My home state has gained its confidence under Michael DeMine. My home state is solid red. You had to worry about it in your elections, but we've got that locked up now.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. If anybody doubted how strong America is, look at all we've been through in the past few months and understand why we're still standing. We're still standing because we believe in the bonds that bring us together. We believe in freedom and liberty. And we believe that after all we've been through, nothing can defeat us. So let's cheer as America gets ready to rebuild and remake our lives bigger, stronger, better than ever before. Keep it here to find out how. We are the answer. Trending now on the Eric Metaxas Show.
For folks like you and me, this was a moment ago, especially for you. You lived through this. You were an adult. This was your friend. This was a student. And the parallels with what are happening in this country today are so striking. I mean, we could have talked about this book just because it's the 50th anniversary and it's a good book and it's interesting. And, you and I have met. But I mean, the parallels to what is happening right now in this country are just crazy similar. And so I do want to talk about that. Now, look, there's a lot of young people listening to this program.
All right, everybody. A European correspondent of the Dennis Prager Show, Matt Ridley. He writes as interestingly as he speaks, which is a big compliment. A lot of authors don't know how to speak, which is not an insult at all. It's just, it's like saying a lot of composers don't know how to sing. I mean, they're different arts. But he obviously has mastered both. His book is How Innovation Works and Why It Flourishes in Freedom. I love freedom. I love it. I subscribe to Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death deeply. That's why I don't walk around in fear. And I wanted to ask you about the economy of Britain. Has it been shattered?
Yes. We are facing a big economic hole as a result of this pandemic. We were in pretty good shape before it. We had very low unemployment, a relatively dynamic, tech economy going, etc. We're facing millions unemployed, and we don't even know the extent of it yet. By one estimate, just this week, the GDP has already fallen by 20%. That's 1/5, which takes us back about 20 years in terms of the size of the economy. The only way we're going to get back to giving people full employment, good jobs, growth and prosperity is to unleash the entrepreneurs of this country, and there are plenty ready to be unleashed. We're not going to get back that way by sort of spending a bit more government money here and there. Yes, we've got to look after people who are in trouble, but we've also got to strip away the red tape, the regulations, the bureaucracy that has prevented entrepreneurs from creating businesses and employing people and starting jobs. That's the message I keep trying to give to our government. I'm not sure it's getting through yet. Boris Johnson's instincts are the right ones, but he's surrounded by an enormous bureaucracy of people who like to do things slowly and do things carefully, and that isn't what we need right now. We need someone who gets the point of liberating and unleashing the animal spirits of the British entrepreneur.
Boris Johnson was opposed to the lockdown at the beginning. His instinct, just like Trump, also, that was his instinct. But what would have happened here, I'm sure would have happened there. Every death would have been called a Johnson death.
That's part of the problem, is that the politicians are taking the blame, and there was a significant scandal in this country, which was very similar to what happened in New York, which was that a lot of the deaths occurred in hospitals and care homes. And they occurred because the virus got into the care homes and hospitals, and the people in them were not only not given sufficient personal protective equipment, but they were not tested enough, and they were also encouraged to return patients from hospitals to care homes to make room for the expected arrival of sick people with COVID-19. What that did was it seeded the virus into the care homes. 23,000 people were discharged from hospitals in the UK into care homes, and I know of one which absolutely adamantly refused to take a hospital patient on the grounds that although they had a vacancy, they did not want to take the risk, and they were absolutely right. Now, that's a scandal.
That's right.
But to blame that on the politicians rather than the bureaucracy that took that decision seems to me wrong.
Right. Now, look, in one case, the case of Andrew Cuomo of New York State, I do believe that one can blame. He actually made an edict that you had to take you could not, quote, discriminate, unquote, against COVID-19 patients and accepting them into elderly care homes.
Really?
Yes, I know. Your reaction is perfect. Really? That's exactly right. It's uncanny. But my only point was, am I right? Boris Johnson's original instinct was not to have a lockdown.
Yeah, no, Boris Johnson wanted to do as much as possible voluntarily, and then around the middle of March, a proposal was, a forecast was produced by Imperial College London based on a model.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think it was 500,000 for the UK.
For the UK,
and
2 million for us. Yes,
in the US.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And
so let me ask you a question. Forgive me, is the UK printing money like we are?
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember now, but quantitative easing. Yeah, there was some extra done of that, and that will add to. Well, in some ways, I hope it feeds through into inflation, because that will be a way of getting the debt down eventually. But it'll be very brutal if it does for a lot of people.
Yes. One final question: do you call yourself a conservative? I don't mean by party. I mean philosophically.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I'm a conservative with a big C, but no, I don't call myself a conservative philosophically. I call myself a classical liberal or a libertarian. I'm someone who just thinks that the more free we make people and the less we wrap them up in bureaucracy, the better off they'll be. That doesn't really, because I'm very in favor of innovation and change and that kind of thing. So I'm not a conservative in the sense of not wanting the world to change. I want the world to change a lot.
Right. But right now, and you're totally free to differ with me. I always tell that to guests. But right now, I don't see very big difference between a classical liberal and a conservative, at least not in America.
That's right. I mean, I think, there's no doubt that if you are on the side of liberty, if your instinct is people should be as free as possible to make their own mistakes and to make their own opportunities, then you are more at home in the Conservative Party in the UK than in any other party. The paternalist, everybody must do what they're told instinct is much stronger in the Labour Party and the so-called Liberal Party.
So are the Ridleys of the UK increasing or decreasing?
Yeah, I thought you meant, am I having lots of babies?
No, that's very funny. When I asked it, I thought, is he taking me literally? Are the Ridley thinking types increasing?
Well, you know what it's like. The media makes out that what everybody wants is sort of more spending, more taxing for 5 years, and then or 4 years. And every 4 years you get a glimpse of what the public really thinks. And in December we had an election.
That's right.
And in that election, Boris Johnson said, I want to liberate people to do what they want. I want to unleash Britain's potential. I want to leave the European Union. I want to free us up. And he got a huge landslide victory.
Matt Ridley, it is a joy to talk to you, which is the only reason I keep talking to you. His book is superb. How Innovation Works. He's for freedom. Thank you, Matt Ridley. I return momentarily.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Is it of importance to us in interpreting the events of the last 2+ weeks that we are seeing all of this happen predominantly in hardcore Democrat-run cities, Gianna?
You know what's interesting about that is that Democrats won't even take credit for the fact that a lot of their policies have caused this to happen. You think about somebody like Joe Biden, who goes into George Floyd funeral with a video message talking about racial reconciliation and healing. Meanwhile, he's a big part of the reason why we have so much division in this country today. You think about the 94 crime bill. If we're going to talk about liberal cities, you can't forget about my hometown of Chicago, where you got a mayor there who provided, or rather asked for, 375 National Guardsmen in the city of Chicago and put them all in the downtown area. Meanwhile, the poor black areas on the south side and west sides are left to fend for themselves. You're talking about minority-owned businesses ruined, which they don't have money to come back. Some of these folks don't even have insurance. And that's across all American spectrums, whether you be white, black, or indifferent. We just lived through COVID. And now you got these liberals whose policies have created a huge mess from a financial tax purpose, a tax basis. And now you're disenfranchising poor people more by way of your policies, even through protests and looting. This is unimaginable. Who would have thought that this is where we would be in 2020? But if anybody is really listening and watching what's going on, this should be the best reason not to vote for liberals in any capacity. That's any office, whether it be president, Senate, House, state Senate, state House, mayor, any office. You shouldn't be voting for Democrats. And that's what I've taken away from this time.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
My guest is Jason Riley. He is the board member of the Wall Street Journal, also senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute. Jason, what do you think are the remaining barriers for people to escape poverty, Black people?
The remaining barriers are largely government-created barriers, denying kids the ability to choose the schools they want to attend, or at least their parents choosing the schools that they want their children to attend. When Black aspiring entrepreneurs want to start a business in a neighborhood, they're plenty of barriers there. So I think they're largely government barriers. I mean, you mentioned the title of one of my books, Please Stop Helping Us. I don't think there's a government solution out there that's going to save Black America. I think it's mostly about Black America or about government getting out of the way, minimum wage laws that price blacks out of work and so forth. You know all these arguments, but that's not how the other side measures barriers. They look at disparate outcomes, racially disparate outcomes, and wherever they see them, they assume something nefarious is going on. I read an article in the LA Times recently talking about police. 900 killings in LA by police since 2000, and then they tell you 80% were black. They tell you the percentage of the black population in LA, and they go, draw your own conclusions. When we know, it's not that simple. Just telling us what the percentage of the population is, and then the percentage of blacks involved with police. What we want to know, what are the crime rates based on neighborhoods and zip codes and race and ethnicity and so forth. You must factor that in.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe. The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio.
Okay, my friends, I'm Dennis Prager, 1-8-PRAGER-776. COVID, most of it hysteria, and then the country is racist lie. This is beyond hysteria. It's both hysteria and a lie. We are living a lie. It's an astonishing thing. The data on everything so undermine this left-wing lie, and yet people just accept it. The police are racist. The police are brutal against blacks. I don't mean that it never happens. They're saying it's a constant. What is it? Systemic. That's their favorite word. We have systemic racism. The system is racist. Every white is racist. And vast numbers of whites buy this. Really? Ask these people. You're racist? I've been a friend of yours for 20 years. I don't recall racist comments from you or racist behavior. Please tell me about the racism in you that I'm not aware of. Racism is an evil thing. What if it were said every non-Jew is an anti-Semite? Would you, a non-Jew, would you accept that? Or would you think, I don't know, I don't really hate Jews. I don't. But maybe they're right. Truck drivers say this is I don't know what CDL life is, but I assume it has to do with trucking industry. But I don't know. Truck drivers say they won't deliver to cities with defunded police departments. I hope that's true. I'm giving you this report. I don't know how widespread this is. As cities across the country are discussing defunding or disbanding their police departments, truck drivers are voicing concerns of safety. 77% of truck drivers say they will refuse to deliver freight to cities with defunded police departments. Let me as well answer, and I am Mr. Not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of anything. I would not swim with alligators, but I don't walk around in fear. I thought there was hysteria over COVID, hysteria over everything. It's all we live is hysterias. However, I will not take a speech in a city that has defunded its police. I'll just announce that right now. It's an absurd risk to take. There are no policemen in your city, and I'm just going to visit. Doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why anybody would. I'm sorry? Oh, commercial driver's license. So I was right. It's a trucking website. Truck driving is historically ranked as one of the most dangerous jobs in the country. In 2018, U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported truck driving as the most deadly job in the country. That's very interesting. Well, would you pick up, so we asked drivers on the app, CDL Life, would you pick up / deliver to cities with defunded or disbanded police departments? As of June 13, 2020, we've had over 1,283 respondents. 79% say they will refuse loads to city with disbanded or defunded police departments. That's exactly right. Here are some of their responses. If something was to happen to you and you have to take matters into your own hands and then you risk being prosecuted for protecting yourself. That's exactly right. Absolutely. So Minneapolis, good luck. They unanimously voted there. I tell you, it's an amazing thing to me. I've been to Minneapolis probably 20 times. I did not know how radical Minneapolis was. I have a lot of listeners there. I mean, my God, I love your orchestra, I've been with your fantastic first trumpet. They spoke at your hall. I didn't know about this. I mean, unanimous. Your city council voted unanimously not to have a police force. Okay. Fascinating experiment. You get what you vote for. Relief Factor is a magnificent product. I don't believe in gratuitous pain. There's enough pain in life. You don't need pain that you can get rid of. I think you can get rid of it if it's a muscular or joint, tendon, that type of pain. This thing is like a miracle. But here's the deal. Take it for 3 weeks as directed. And if it doesn't work, it probably won't work for you. You've thrown out $20 in shipping. But if it works, you are a lucky person. And I mean it. 800-500-8384 for the 3-week quick start. ReliefFactor.com.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio. Trending now on the Larry Elder Show.
What do you make of what's going on in our streets, these protests, these riots?
Well, unfortunately, the things that were done to that poor individual, Mr. Floyd, are things that should not be done to an animal. Mm-hmm. And that's enough to enrage anyone. So I understand the rage. But unfortunately, there are others who are hiding behind peaceful protesters who are not peaceful people at all. And I think that dishonors the man who died. It also dishonors Dr. Martin Luther King, mm-hmm. Who was an advocate for nonviolent protests and was able to bring about the greatest civic changes ever mm-hmm. in this country. And I don't know of any situation where violent, destructive protests have been helpful.
Dr. Carson, even Mr. Floyd's brother has made a statement and has said that my brother would not have been happy about this. And before George Floyd died, Dr. Carson, he had a Facebook post where he was talking about black-on-black crime and how he thought how hideous he thought it was, and that we need to get our arms around that.
And the black community really needs to start talking about that issue, because how many young black men are killed every weekend in Chicago, mm-hmm. but because it's black on black crime, we don't care about that.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube today. Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
This is the state of play. And what is the response from the left? Mr. Mayor, please listen to Governor Jay Inslee of Washington State, where some of the worst violence is occurring, on his responsibility or lack thereof to the people of his state.
Thing called the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. What's your thought on that? The fact that the protesters have taken that over and not allowing people to come and go freely? Regarding the Capitol Garden.
Well, that's news to me, so I'll have to reserve any comment about it. I have not heard anything about that from any credible source. Not that you're not credible. It's just like before I espouse an opinion, I should know of which I speak.
Should a governor be laughing about losing control of the streets of one of his cities, Mr. Matt?
I'm not surprised, Sebastian. Are you?
I'm not, but what does this mean for the people living in Seattle in Washington State?
Well, I mean, I hope that the American people
All right, everybody, I want to remind you of a magnificent sponsor, save you a lot of money. And I've tried it out because I'm not going to tell you anything that I don't believe in. Pure Talk will give you telephone service, keeping your own phone, keeping your own number. I want to make that clear. I find this amazing, actually. Unlimited text, unlimited talk. 2 gigabyte of data a month, $20. So I said, it's hard for me to believe. It's got to be patchy service or something. So I actually got another phone on that service. It's terrific. That's it. Simple as that. Dial pound 250, say the keyword Dennis Prager. Pound 250, keyword Dennis Prager. You know, I remember telling my parents when I was a kid, I said, Dennis, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said a keyword. It was prophetic. Pound 250, Pure Talk USA, Simply Smarter Wireless. Thank you. Oh, no. This happens too often. There was a black Republican calling. Sir, if you could get in again. I think it was in Sacramento. That was my next choice. I don't blame him for hanging up. He was on a long time. Look, it's impossible to take all the good calls. What am I going to do? It's like you can't read all the good books. It's very frustrating. Last hour, I talked about the NFL. Tell me, or I might as well apply it to the NBA. I don't see any difference. But I think they've killed it. The radicals have killed it. I don't know why people think, that these athletes think, they can call people scum and then have them come to the game or watch it on TV and cheer them. It's an amazing phenomenon. All whites are racist. Now pay a lot of money to see me play basketball or football or whatever the sport. Watch me not stand for the national anthem and honor me for that. I mean, it reminds me, I actually saw on video young white people kissing black people's shoes. I give you my word, as a means of atonement. It's on the internet. There's a pathology in this country is that leftism is pathologic. It's the greatest lie in modern history that the U.S. is a racist country. It's the least racist, multi-ethnic country. Just for the record, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I periodically remind you that 6 times as many blacks have come to America from Africa voluntarily as immigrants than came involuntarily as slaves. 300,000 versus 2 million. You want the data? I'll put it up. I'll get it for you. This is not esoteric. Henry Louis Gates, the great black historian at Harvard, this is the database that he uses. 306,000 slaves came to the United States in total. NPR gave the 2 million figure. Others have given other figures that are higher. So tell me something. All these Africans who come to the United States and millions more who want to come, they didn't get the message that this is a systemically racist country? I'll do anything to go to America so a policeman can beat me, kill me. You're living a gigantic lie because the left is built on lies. It always has been. You vote Democrat, you're voting for a lie. So you'll say, oh, you vote for Trump, you're voting for a liar. Okay. But the left is systemic lying, okay, to use their term. Trump has done a lot of good for this country. You're offended or repulsed by his tone, his tweets, his mode of speech. Okay. So what? So what? 2 of the most powerful words in English language. So what? So you're going to vote left because you can't stand Trump? You can't rise above your own reaction to a man? It boggles my mind, actually. Okay, let's see here. Schenectady, New York. I know Schenectady, actually. Claude, hello.
Hi, Ben. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
I have 3 issues here. Number 1, Cuomo is not opening up the upstate New York, and there's no spikes whatsoever. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, Cuomo supports these radicals, along with the mayor of Albany. She supports these radicals, okay? And, if we don't have a police force, this is the only laws we have. If they go, we have no law. It's lawless. Then we're going to get nailed for protecting ourselves? I don't think so.
That's right. Well, actually, that's the danger. I live in California, and I have regularly commented on upstate New York. Why you have to suffer because of New York City. It's beyond belief to me. I kept saying, I use Syracuse the example. I know Schenectady because my beloved uncle and aunt lived there their whole lives. It's mind-boggling.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio.
Attention business owners. As America gets back to work, will customers know you're there? With little warning, the coronavirus attacked our nation and our well-being in ways we never anticipated. The tragic loss of life, unprecedented economic upheaval, and a shattered sense of security has left many individuals and businesses in shambles. While the aftershocks could be felt for months to come, they may not have to. There is hope for an extraordinary turnaround of your bottom line. But will you be prepared for America's grand reopening? All signs point to the biggest business opportunity of our lifetime, coming as early as this summer. A recent survey of local advertisers shows a 10-point jump in the number of local advertisers who plan to maintain or increase their spending. 1 in 4 businesses expect to spend more in advertising by the end of June, and more than half expect to restart or surge their spending by this summer. As the numbers forecast increased spending from advertisers across the country, will your message be seen and heard? Will your business benefit from the pent-up consumer demand? Salem Surround is prepared to help you deliver the right advertising message to reach all potential customers wherever they are. Your business can be ready for a post-COVID-19 economy, but the time to act is now. Be at the front of the line as our economy begins to fire on all cylinders once again. For a free assessment of your marketing message and strategy, visit salemsurround.com or contact your local media strategist today.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Exclusive from General Flynn. This is at westernjournal.com. Freedom is oxygen, like the air we breathe that keeps our lungs full and our hearts beating. The celestial feeling of freedom brings a sense of peace to our souls. Freedom must never be taken for granted. Securing our freedom demands a high price. And that price requires hard work and sacrifice. Both will bind us all by the value they produce, but only if we are willing to seek new opportunities and new ideas. Those who have sacrificed the most, those who have given the last true measure of devotion that derives from the love of faith, family, and the cause of freedom, for all of us to be free and for the betterment of our republic and the free world, cannot be allowed to have died in vain. Theirs is the ultimate sacrifice, and heaven is their reward. Our future, the future of our children and grandchildren, and the future of our country are at stake. God will not give way to the care of the devil or allow us to be left to the evil vices of those who would steal our freedom in the dark of night. He will not.
Okay, all good. My man is there. I mean, good. Maybe might turn out to be a poor call, but it's the call I wanted. Sacramento. Stephen, hello.
Hi, Dennis. Thank you so much for taking my call. I was able to get back in.
Glad you got
it. You came so close. You came so close to what I was going to say this morning. You all but said it. I think from this point on, all athletes in every sport, they all have to take a knee.
That's right.
That's
correct. Or they're ostracized by their own teammates.
Well, imagine if Drew Brees tried to stand up after what he's gone through.
Well, look at the coaches of Houston and I forgot the other team. They've already announced Cleveland. They've announced
Dennis,
the coaches are going to take a knee.
Dennis, I wouldn't be surprised if Goodell or whatever the name is said that everybody has to.
No, he won't go that far. Okay. But for all intents and purposes, he has said it. He has condemned the country as racist. So he's called for it. Thank you for calling. Sports have been ruined by the left. Remember, everything they touch, they ruin. I don't know why people aren't convinced yet. Everything. There isn't an exception. Leftism is a tsunami of chaos. When people are happy, leftists are not. People got along. Republicans and Democrats would sit in the stands and they would cheer their team. Everybody stood for the national anthem. So let's screw all that up. Let's make a fight. Any of you have a relative who is a drama queen? Then you know the left. The left are drama queens. And drama gives their boring, empty lives meaning. Now I have meaning. I will fight racism in America. See, that's what it is. They don't believe in religion. They don't believe in the country. No, they don't believe in the West. They don't believe in liberty. So something has to give, some ism. So anti-racism is their religion. It's one form of leftism. At times it's feminism, at times it's environmentalism, now it's anti-racism. I'm very saddened about the sports issue. Very saddened. I'm saddened about late night TV. That too. It used to be non-political. There's no such thing on the left. Everything is political. It's a virus. It spreads. Be very interesting. It's a phenomenon. The athletes on the field tell the people in the stands, you're all loathsome racists. Now please cheer for us. I'm Dennis Prager.